Okay, this is your story from Amelia with the questions at the end. Prologue. Prologue narrator. In 1920, Amelia Earhart took her first ride in an airplane and fell in love with flying. She was 23. Flying was extremely dangerous in those days and considered a man's job. Earhart decided to take lessons anyway. Within a few years, she was regarded as one of the country's best female pilots. In 1927, when a young man named Charles Lindbergh flew solo across the Atlantic Ocean and became an overnight sensation, Earhart was ready to make her mark too. Scene 1. Narrator A. It is 1928. Earhart is in New York City to meet with George Palmer Putnam, who has just published a book by Lindbergh. Putnam is looking for a female pilot to fly across the Atlantic. Amelia Earhart. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Putnam. George Palmer Putnam. I'll get right to the point, Miss Earhart. I'm told that you want to fly the Atlantic. Why? Earhart. Why does a man ride a horse? Putnam. 3 women have died attempting the flight. If you make it, you'd be the first. Earhart. I have a fondness for first, Mr. Putnam. Narrator B. Putnam explains that Earhart will become famous, but there's a catch. Putnam. Bill Stoltz will be the pilot. You'll be aboard. Earhart. As a passenger? Putnam. But you'd still be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. People will remember it as your flight. Earhart. My fraud, you mean? My dream is to fly the Atlantic, Mr. Putnam, but not like this. Putnam. Think about it, Miss Earhart. This could win you more chances to fly. Scene 2. Narrator C. Swayed by the prospect of future opportunities, Earhart agrees to Putnam's plan. The pilot is to be Stoltz, with Slim Gordon as navigator. Earhart is commander of the flight, in name only. Narrator D. On June 17, 1928, the trio is in Newfoundland, Canada, ready to depart for the transatlantic flight to Ireland. But, Bill Stoltz, we've got a problem. The seaplane won't take off from the harbor. Narrator E. A determined Earhart reduces the amount of fuel they are carrying. This makes the plane lighter. Finally, it soars. Stoltz. Well done. Narrator A. Things are fine until the radio goes out somewhere over the ocean. In these early days of aviation, equipment is unreliable. Stoltz. We have no way to figure out wind speed or where exactly we are. Slim Gordon. We've been flying for 19 hours. We have 1 hour of fuel left. Stoltz. If we land on the water now, we might get rescued. Earhart. But we'll have failed. That's not an option. Gordon. Wait, what's that? Stoltz. Land! We've got land! Narrator B. The plane touches down on the water near a small port town. News of its arrival spreads quickly. By the time the trio reaches shore, hundreds of people have turned out, applauding and singing. Earhart. Is it Irish tradition to greet newcomers with song? Reporter 1. I couldn't say, Miss Earhart. This is Wales. Reporter 2. Are you proud to be the first woman to fly the Atlantic? Earhart. I was just a passenger. But a woman will do this one day. This flight will get women thinking, I hope. Reporter 1. What has it got you thinking, Miss Earhart? Earhart. That there's more to life than being a passenger. The picture, this photograph shows Earhart on June 19th, 1928. A day after her plane landed in Wales, Slim Gordon, wearing goggles, is on her left. Bill Stoltz is on her right. Number 1. Based on how Earhart and Putnam act in the first scene, which of the following best describes how the characters are different? A. Earhart enjoys flying more than Putnam does. B. Earhart avoids danger more than Putnam does. C. Earhart is more concerned about fraud than Putnam is. D. Earhart is less interested in future flights than Putnam is. 2. This question is 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A. Which of the following describes how Earhart's behavior during the flight differs from that of Stoltz? A. Earhart remains determined, but Stoltz gives up completely and lands the plane in the water. B. Earhart remains determined, but Stoltz strongly suggests landing in the water and getting rescued. C. Earhart wants to give up, but Stultz insists on trying to get the radio to work before landing. D. Earhart realizes that they must land, but Stultz insists that failure is not an option for them. Part B. Choose two pieces of evidence from the text that best support the answer in Part A. A. Stultz, we've got a problem. The seaplane won't take off from the harbor. B. Stultz, we have no way to figure out wind speed or where exactly we are. C. Stultz, if we land on water now, we might get rescued. D. Earhart, but we'll all have failed. That's not an option. E. Earhart, I was just a passenger, but a woman will do this one day. F. Earhart, that there's more to life than being a passenger. So again, two pieces of evidence from the text that best support the answer in Part A. Number 3. In this activity, you will compare the characters of Earhart and Putnam. First, select one word that describes Earhart and one word that describes Putnam. Copy those words in the column labeled description. Then complete the chart by copying one quotation that provides evidence for each description. So in the descriptions box, daring, gentle, scared, convincing. Evidence? This could win you more chances to fly, but will have failed. That's not an option. But there's a catch. I have a fondness for first, Mr. Putnam. And then in the box, you have character, Earhart, Putnam. Description is blank. Evidence is blank. 4. This question is 2 parts. Answer Part A, then answer Part B. Part A. Read the sentence from Amelia. In these early days of aviation, equipment is unreliable. What does the word unreliable mean as it is used in this sentence? A. Not useful. B. Not dependable. C. Easily broken. D. Barely modern. Part B. Which detail from the drama best supports the answer to Part A? A. This makes the plane lighter. B. Things are fine. C. Until the radio goes out. D. The plane touches down on the water. 5. Short response. The drama states that Earhart was commander of the flight in name only. In what ways was Earhart as much in command of the flight as Stultz and Gordon? Use at least 2 details from the drama that support your response. Learning target. In this lesson, you compared and contrasted what characters did and said in dramas. Explain how you can use this skill to better understand how dramas tell their stories.